Now I will sing a song to my friend. This song is about his vineyard. My friend had a vineyard on a hill with very rich soil. He dug and cleared the field of stones. He planted his best grapevines there, and he built a tower in the middle of it. He cut out a wine press as well. He hoped good grapes would grow there, but only bad grapes grew. My friend says, "You people living in Jerusalem, and you men of Judah, judge between me and my vineyard. What more could I have done for my vineyard? I did everything I could. I hoped for good grapes to grow, but why were there only bad grapes? Now I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will remove the hedge and it will be burned. I will break down the stone wall and it will be walked on. I will ruin my field, it will not be trimmed or hoed. Weeds and thorns will grow there. I will command the clouds not to rain on it. The vineyard belonging to the Lord of heaven's armies is the nation of Israel. The garden that the Lord loves is the men of Judah. The Lord looked for justice, but there was only killing. The Lord hoped for right living, but there were only cries of pain."
Well, did you hear who the vineyard was talking about? I wonder if you heard it. It was so quick. We'll see in a bit. But this is a really exciting part of Isaiah. We get to join in with Isaiah as he sees a picture of what God is like a dream or a film being played in his head. And it tells Isaiah something about God, which is true. Let's have a look at the first thing that Isaiah learns. Have a look on the screen. The Lord was sitting on a very high throne, okay, really high throne. Like your thrones earlier were high, but this one is huge. And God's long robe filled the temple. So just imagine how big this throne would be. It's a really high throne. We know that because God's robe, like a dressing gown, it fills the whole temple. Just the bottom bit of it fills the whole temple. So how big must that throne be that God is sitting on? And then how big must God be if just the ends of his robe trail around the whole floor of the temple? The temple would have been far bigger than your house, huge. Just imagine how big this picture that Isaiah saw of God. It shows Isaiah that God is amazing. He's big, he's powerful, he's mighty. He's bigger, he's more powerful, he's grander, he's more mighty than he can even imagine. I wonder how you might react if you saw something that big. You'd probably stand back and say, "Whoa." Or maybe you wouldn't say anything. You couldn't. It's just so amazing. And what happens next? Let's have a look again, because Isaiah hears something. We had our listening ears last week. Isaiah hears this. Holy, holy, holy. It's not good enough to say it once. Is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. And as that was said, the whole temple shook and it filled with smoke. Wow. It's all going on, isn't it? A massive throne with God on it. Creatures singing, holy, holy, holy is God. He's almighty. He's full of glory. And the temple shakes and is filled with smoke, all under the weight of God's glory, just how amazing he is. It's showing us that everything in the whole earth is to show us that God is amazing. He is glorious. Can you imagine how that would feel, seeing something so mighty, hearing something so mighty? When Isaiah sees God, he sees how amazing he is, how powerful he is, how full of glory he is. Right, I want us to make something now as part of our Isaiah toolkit, okay? To help us to get a little picture of what Isaiah saw and what it was like. So hopefully you've got a piece of paper and some pens and a pair of scissors, because you're going to need those right now, okay? Let me tell you what you're going to do. You're going to take your piece of paper and you're going to cut some eyes in it, okay? Like this, okay? So that you can see through it. And then you are going to go wild and you are going to decorate your page, because we're making some glory eyes. So write on it, glory, holy. If you can't write, just put some beautiful colours on it to just show how amazing God is. Because these are our glory eyes, to remind us of what Isaiah saw, how amazing the picture that he saw is. So get your piece of paper, get your scissors, get your colours. You've got 2 minutes to do that. Go for it. Top tip for your eyes, fold your sheet in half, cut once rather than twice. There you go, top tip to make you speedy. Might be too late for some of you. Make sure you've got 2 eyes rather than 1, like a big alien. You want 2 eyes. Oh, Rory's good, very good. I can see Rory's got his eyes. Joe has got 1 eye, good. We're making progress. Good, we're doing well. Right, hopefully you've all got your eyes. Just seen Jenny Salkeld with great eyes. Art teacher, brilliant, good, keep going. Right, get decorating it then. Full of glory, full of holy. This is what God is like, all over the place. Decorate it as wildly as you can. Right, I'll give you 30 more seconds. And you can carry on with this afterwards. Right, good. Everyone come back so you can see me again. Bring your glory eyes with you. As far as you've got, doesn't matter if you've not finished. I had a lot more time to do mine, so it's practically cheating. You can do yours later. Let's have a look at them. Let's see your glory eyes, how far you've got. Good, I can see some. Fantastic. Good, right, go wild with those later to fill them in as much as you can. Our glory eyes to remind us, as part of our toolkit, to remind us what Isaiah saw. He saw that God was full of glory. He was so amazing. And Isaiah saw that God is holy. And as he saw that, he realized that he was not. Imagine you get a toy like this, okay? He's pretty cool, isn't he? And you love it. You think it's great. But then you go to a friend's house and they have this. You'd be like, whoa, that is amazing. And you probably put your little toy back quietly in your pockets because you realize it's pretty unimpressive in comparison to this massive toy. It's nothing really when you look at this. When Isaiah sees this picture of God and how powerful and mighty and holy he is, he can't help but realize how small and how weak and how not holy, how dirty, how wrong he is. And this is what he says. Oh no, I will be destroyed. I'm not pure. And I live among people who are not pure. But I have seen the King, the Lord of heaven's armies. It's like one big warning sign like we saw last week. Stop. God is holy, but you are not. You can't come near. I'm not pure, he says. So Isaiah can't be near God. He can't be friends with God. Imagine you have an old white t-shirt, and it's white, isn't it? But then you buy a new white t-shirt and you hold them two together and you realize, actually, your old white t-shirt is full of stains. It's a bit yellowy. In comparison to the new, beautiful white t-shirt, it's just not white at all. It's actually pretty grubby. God is holy. We are not. Isaiah knows that he's walked away from God. Isaiah knows that he needs sin in the bin so he can go back to God. So what can be done? Well, God shows Isaiah amazing kindness. So that Isaiah can be friends with God, so that he can be made clean, God does something amazing. God deals with Isaiah's sin, the thing that means he can't be friends with God. He says to Isaiah, look, your guilt is taken away. Your sin, it's taken away. God takes Isaiah's sin away so that he can be friends with him. It's the only way that he or anybody can be friends with God, to have their sin taken away. So let's take a little breather here, okay? Let's see what we have seen through this vision that Isaiah has. We've seen that Isaiah sees that God is holy. He knows that he is not, but God is so kind. And he takes Isaiah's sin away so that he can be friends with God. Now there's one last thing. Remember our vineyard earlier? Do you remember what happened to it? God did everything that he could for that vineyard. It should have grown good grapes, but it didn't. Did you hear who the vineyard is talking about? The vineyard is God's people, the men of Judah, the people who should have loved God, but they didn't. He'd given them everything, but they didn't love God. They walked away. God wants his people to love him, to come back to him. And if they ignore him, if they run away from him, he warns them and he says, all people who reject me, I'll destroy, like that vineyard. I'll destroy it. I'll leave it to be destroyed. It is a terrible, frightening picture. But it's right. If people run away from God who gives life, then they lose their life. God is kind. He makes a promise to Isaiah. He says, even some of those who've turned away, they can come back to me because I love them. He makes a promise to send Jesus. And that is wonderful news for us. Like Isaiah and like God's people in Judah, we need sin in the bin so we can go back to him. When we see how good God is, we can't help but see how much we need him, how much he loves us. We need sin in the bin so we can go back to him. And God does that for us through Jesus, taking our punishment. And that's the promise that God makes to Isaiah, that one day he would come, and he did. Wonderful, wonderful news. Let's sing together to help us learn more about this wonderful news.